Good Murray morning! Join me to learn how I make my postmodern flowers. I've already chosen my background for this piece, and I've got my little iron to tack things down. Bunch of little trimmings from past flowers. I keep everything. Look at that. I punched holes for little green spots on something else and a little piece extra I had. For this flower, I want to use something other than green for the foliage. So I'm choosing this beautiful yellow, pinkish, and purple ombre. All of my fabrics are pre-adhered on the back, so I don't have to worry about adding adhesive later. And to get symmetrical leaves, I cut both sides at the same time. I love the way that yellow really stands off of that dark blue. I find it easy to make my leaves look like they're cupped by just reversing the fabric and having the gradients go in different directions. To do that, I'm going to tack it down. It'll just make it easier to cut. Lining it up, trying to decide where I want my gradient to start. One, two, three. Okay, so I tack for 3 seconds in each spot. Now to the other side. Now I'm using non-stick pressing sheets for this part. I actually don't really have anything in mind when I start making these flowers. I just know that I want high contrast and maybe something that is inspired by nature but isn't like a copy of nature. I flipped the leaf here so I could get the most symmetrical leaves possible. But sometimes I do like for them to be non-symmetrical or asymmetrical. Oh dear. Okay, so here I'm thinking to myself, oh my Lord, I've messed it up. I don't like the way that the yellows don't touch. I would have preferred for them to touch. But that's just part of the beauty of this kind of free thinking. Piecing as you go, using what you have. You end up with things that you wouldn't have, building blocks, if you will, for different pieces if I mapped all this out and knew exactly what was going to happen. Which as a quilter, that's what I do like to do. I like to map everything out, know exactly what I'm cutting so I don't waste fabric, because wasting fabric is like, it hurts my heart to do. So I just have these like tubs and tubs of fabric that I'll probably never use. But I can't get rid of it, so there's that. Cutting secondary leaves here. I usually do not start with a particular flower in mind, but today I was researching a lotus before I got started. And this kind of takes on a lotus feel to me. So I'm a little disappointed. I really wanted that purple to cover the yellow, but I didn't cut it long enough. So I'm going to figure out another way to cover that yellow at the bottom. Okay, here we go. We're just cupping these flowers. Love it. Love it, love it. I love making things look like they're coming out of other things, and they're just two-dimensional. Now, how am I going to make this bottom work? I love the cupping effect we've got going on here. But good golly, what am I going to do? I know I'm going to go with this shape, so I'm going to go ahead and tack it down. I probably should have left a little space there open underneath the flower, because sometimes I like to put like little vines and stuff coming out of there, like they're growing out of the inside of a flower. I have a type of spider plant that does that. It's called a fireflash. And it kind of does this like cupping effect as it grows. It's like one of my favorite plants. So now that I've got kind of like the outline of my piece, I'm going to put it on the background and see, do I want the light on top or do I want the dark on top? Now this one I think I'm going to have it ombre light at the bottom to dark at the top, just because that dark purple kind of gets lost down there. And that bright blue really does make it pop. Make that dark purple pop. All right, I'm gonna cut like maybe a little teardrop shape to try to cover up that purple at the bottom. Boop. Open her up, there we go. For the love of everything holy, I didn't make it wide enough. Are you kidding me? Okay, turn it around. Maybe if I cut these in half, it would work and like cover that up at the bottom. I'm not feeling it. I guess I could cut the outer leaves a little like curvier to make them end. Okay, so I'm distracted. Now I'm thinking I haven't figured that out. Let me just do something else for just a minute. I had these curls left over from another project, which is why I never throw any pieces away. They're gorgeous. I just love the curls. Those are hand cut curls, free motion hand cut curls. Or would you call it free motion? Yeah, probably. I have a little tiny rotary blade that I like to use for that. I am feeling this dark color here, but I still want it to cup at the bottom, and that direction doesn't work for me. Kind of looks like a kite. It's interesting. Okay. What else could we do here? What else could we do? How are we going to make this work? Okay. I'm feeling it. Yeah. Okay. I think this is it. I think we've got it. These dark purple pieces are from another project. And again, I never throw anything away. Now, these are not going to stay this size, but I am going to tack it down just so I can get it over to the cutting mat easier. Sometimes I have a problem with my glue sticking to that mat. I don't know, maybe I need a different type of pressing mat. I think I got that from Amazon. All right, and I always like to make sure that it's going to fit on my canvas. Sometimes I'll make and not consider the canvas, and then I end up with a piece that's like a half an inch too short for the canvas, or the flowers are like spilling over the edge. All right, here we go. We're gonna make our cupping, the base of our flower. Sweet. Y'all should see my cutting mat. It's got like, whenever I cut these curves, I just dig so hard. I'm gonna have this cutting mat tore up in no time. And I always like to look and double look, because these pieces, they were leftover. They weren't equal on both sides. So it is gonna be asymmetrical on the bottom. There's nothing I can, there's no way I can change that. So I just wanna look at it and make sure it's at least balanced. Balance does most of the work for a piece. And here we go with our dark on top, light on bottom for the background. That yellow, gosh, it just pops so hard off that dark blue. Measuring, now I'm trying to decide how high I can go up on that fabric with my new flower. The flower that hasn't been created yet. And here comes the fun part. Taking out all those little pieces. I love this black and white stripe. I'm sure you know where I got it from. I don't really want to promote like where I get this fabric from. I mean, I guess it would be one thing if they were like, if they sponsored me but hey man, I'm just out here trying to make it like everybody else. Not interested in free advertising. But I do love this fabric. It's the bee's knees. I might hand dye my own fabric one day. Like hand dye my own ombres. That could be neat. And like a different design element. This orange, y'all, I'm loving it. It's McDonald's. I'm loving it. Boo! Oh gosh. When I'm putting my flowers together, I like to make them look cupped, like somewhere for the stamen to go. And I just sit and look at these for a long time. I have sped this video up slightly just to fit in the time frame. Well, I mean, there is no like time frame. I was kind of shooting for 25 minutes. But y'all, I'm gonna tell you what, making these flowers makes me feel so alive. Just something about all of these scraps becoming something. It's just like transformation. And we do this in our own lives a lot of times. You know, it's like problems. Okay, how are we going to take these problems and make them something beautiful? Oh, but anyways, not to get philosophical. I'm really just gluing fabric to fabric. Testing color. I just want to see, okay, is this color going to be better? I mean, I like the red, especially juxtaposition of the yellow. But I'm just not, oh, okay. I'm getting this blue. Look at it. Okay, let me tell you what I really love about this blue. Number one, it's like a place where you would get your jewelry. Maybe one of those little blue boxes, if you know what I'm saying. And, okay, hear me out. It stands off incredibly well against that dark blue background. And bonus points, it matches the bottom. So we're bringing the eye up visually into this lighter blue at the top. Again, talking about that balance. We're looking for that balance. I also think it's really fun to take these flowers and make them look like maybe they're just flat pieces of paper that have folded up into a shape where like half of the paper is pink and half is blue. Or I don't mean half and half. I mean one side is pink and the other side is blue. There's just something about this little orange and yellow rain droplet that's just really filling my eye. I'm loving it. I love how it fits on the background too. But how am I going to make this look like a flower instead of like just a raindrop? Okay, I'm gonna work on our stamen here. Do I want that stamen coming out like that? It's a bit intense. Try something smaller here. I like this size. I do not like this color. I like to sit with things for a minute just to see how they make me feel. I could have sworn I had another little pink droplet shape, but I just can't find it. What if I had it coming off this vine? What if I had this vine wrapping around the flower? What would that look like? How, in my mind, would this vine connect to this flower? How would it work in nature? How would it work in my imagination? These are all things that I think about when I'm putting these flowers together. How is that flower coming off the stem? So in this flower's world, I've decided that this is like a seed pod. So I'm adding these little green seeds. I used a hole punch to make these. And you can see they did not come from this green. They came from a different green. But I thought, wouldn't that be fun to balance the hole punch seeds with that leaf that's got the hole punches taken out of it? I'm toying here with using a red petola instead of a green one. Trying out different colors. What does look good? Ultimately, I do choose the green. Spoiler alert. The fun thing about these little curly cues, once you make one, as long as you cut it big enough, you can make several. But you do have to make them in both directions, so that can be a little bit of a challenge. I love the curve that this green is already in, so I'm going to just accentuate that. Sometimes I think it's fun to cut the fabric with like the leaves in it. But then sometimes it's also fun to layer them. Do you think I should put this with the stem going through the center? Like that's where it's holding it? But then where would the stamen be? Where would that come out? How would I balance this on the other side? Yeah, I'm still gonna go back. I'm going back to the raindrop. I really like how this is in its little world. This particular flower stem is going all the way to the top. It is implied, in my opinion, because you cannot see it. What color is really gonna look good in my seed pod as a stamen without detracting? That's fun. Yeah. I love decorating the outside of this one. I think for my next piece, I'm gonna just go crazy on the outside. I might even bust out the Cricut and cut up some stuff. I do have a Cricut, and I'm going to tell you, I do not use it as much as I thought I would. But that's okay. It's still nice to have. Ugh, my dogs are outside barking. Maybe you can hear it, maybe you can't. I don't know. Oh, there's my dog right now. Hey, Bentley. I swear to you, he's too handsome for our family. He's got, okay, so he's a Chinese crested. He's got one blue eye and one brown eye. I'm going to tell you what, that blue eye was extra. We were originally on the list for a girl Chinese crested, a hairless. But when we saw Bentley's picture, I mean, he's gorgeous. So we just had to bring him home. Yes, look at that. Ugh, love it. All right, now remember earlier when I said I usually don't tack these leaves all the way down because I like tucking things behind the leaves to make them look cupped. Well, I'd already tacked this down, so I just very gently lifted up that fabric just a little bit to give that illusion of that little curly Q going into that leaf. I do like to use what I have, but sometimes if I just need it to be a little pointier or have a different kind of curve in it. Okay, also in this flowers world, that stamen goes all the way to the top of the raindrop. Making random patterns is so hard. Like, I want to give the illusion that these are falling from the pod. Oh my gosh, look how fun. Okay, yeah. The triangle has to stay, even though it's not the same. All right, you remember this piece? That is going to be next week's video. When I saw it, as I cut it off the bottom of this flower, I knew immediately what I wanted to do with it. And it's spooky season, so it's like totally spooky colors. It's gonna be epic. And that's what's so great about just cutting and just letting it happen. I never would, in a million years, would have cut that piece intentionally. There's just no need. So it was an accident. And now we're going to create something totally new from it. It's just, makes me all warm and tingly on the inside. Do I want to add a darker color in the background there? I don't know. I don't know that it needs it. I don't want it to be too busy. I'm not really happy with how dark this green is. It's not really showing up well, so we're just going to save that for another piece of art. It belongs to another flower that hasn't been made yet. Boom, boom, boom. Before I go under the iron completely, I do like to tack things down. Sometimes I lose a little adhesion on those non-stick mats. But I have had things end up where I did not want them. And you're done. I mean, it's there. Nothing you can do about it. checking for adhesion. Always got to make sure it's adhered. Let's get our blue lined up. Tack it down. I'm definitely making sure to leave that little gap open for the stamen to come out. I do have tips and tricks that I will be sharing in a future video. Some of the techniques that I'm using here, I'm not telling you about them, and that is on purpose. I will share those with you in a future video. Because we should all be able to make, have the freedom to make, the knowledge to make. Let's center this flower up just a little bit. I need to make sure I have enough room on all sides to staple it to the canvas. Because even though these are textiles, I've ended up in this place where I want them on a canvas. I have a long arm. I paid a lot of money for it. But that's not where my heart is right now. Making these flower canvases just feel me. They just feel my heart so much. I love them. Doing a final check here. Making sure it's going to fit side to side with enough overhang to staple on the back. And I should probably mention that there is not adhesive on my background. It is just fabric. Because this next step, if I were to do the next step with adhesive on the background, it would just end up glued to my ironing mat. Tacking down 3 to 5 seconds. I don't get really intense. I don't know why that right there bugged me, so I got rid of it. It's like it's too high or something. I want to play more with these dots too. Like taking a hole punch and making these dots. Like how crazy could I get with those? Making the perfect random mix here. My fire flash does seeds a little similar to this. They are self-seeding plants. Now with the big iron. It's 10 seconds. This thing is a lifesaver. Yay! Now we're all adhered. Oh, just feels so good. It feels so good to look at this. It was just scraps and pieces before we started. And in just a minute, it's going to be a beautiful piece of artwork. Look at it. All those colors. Oh, well, thanks for watching. Y'all have a good day. See you next week.